Hey everybody, Mike Iaconelli. Welcome to a brand new In the Shop on the Water, and we are talking about Finesse jerkbaits. When you talk about jerkbait fishing, your tendency is to think of traditional size jerkbaits, right? 4, 5, 6-inch jerkbaits, bait casting equipment, power fishing. But it's wintertime, it's cold, it's bluebird, it's post frontal, and today we're going to be talking all about that little thing, the Finesse jerkbait. So we're going to go over the bait, some modifications, line, rod, and reel, and then we're actually going to fish it. Hopefully catch a few bass, maybe some pickerel, maybe some perch. Come on, let's go. I want to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. And again, this is a 3 to 1 inch jerkbait. Here are 3 of my favorites. There's a lot of good ones out there in the market. This is absolutely a sleeper. And I'm an old guy, so this one makes sense. This is a Rapala Husky jerk. It's size 8. They actually make it a size smaller too. I love the 8. It's a 2-hook model jerkbait. We've got the number 8 Rapala X-Rap, another great one. And then of course we've got this little guy right here, and this is the Rapala RipStop in that small size. These are great idea of what I'm talking about when I talk about a Finesse jerkbait. Modifications, there's 2 that I make all the time, and one other modification I want to show you. And so this is just this is that Husky jerk out of the pack, and I'm hardly ever fishing them just like you pull them out of the pack like that. The one thing I'm a big believer in is using a little bit bigger hooks. In fact, most of the time when we're talking about cold water and cold front conditions like we have here, I actually want a bait that slowly sinks. I want a bait that slowly sinks nose down, just very, very, minutely sinks. And we can do that real easily by changing the hooks. So I'm a big believer in that. My general rule of thumb is to go one size up, especially on the belly hook. So, my first mod, if you look at this bait, this has got 2 number 6s on it. My first mod is I go to this belly hook. I can take these things off real easy too. I just use my fingernail, I get it started, and then I'm gonna go one size up, okay? So 2 number 6s. Here's a number 5. I love this hook. This is a VMC hybrid hook. And if you can see, that's substantially bigger than what came on that factory. So my first thing I'm gonna do is spin off that factory hook. I'm going to put that number 5 on there. And here's the cool thing about doing it this way. That old one spins right off, and when the old one spins off, the new one gets on there. So spin that off. There you go. That's on the belly. And just by making that one change, nothing else, I'm going to get this bait to just barely sink. And because that bigger hook is on the belly, it's going to just cock it down, nose down, right? It's going to tilt it nose down, and that's what I want. The second modification I always make is I always want a snap or a split ring on the nose. The great thing about the Husky jerk, it already comes with an O-ring. It comes with a ring on the front. But some of these baits, if they don't have a ring on the front, just get a ring or get a little snap. This is a size 3 snap. And that provides a little extra weight at the nose in addition to that bigger hook. Once again, I want a bait that's nose down and that barely sinks. And you're really going to see this come into play as I show you how to fish it. The other mod I want to show you, and this is especially if you're getting short strikes, this is a really good easy mod, is by using some feathers on the back. And you hear about this a lot with topwaters, you hear about this a lot with spoons, but it works great on Finesse jerkbaits too. So this is number 6. This is the same size that's on the tail. And I'm going to go ahead and replace that factory hook with one with just a little bit of hackle on the back, just a little bit of feathers. And same thing, I can get this to the split ring, start spinning it down, get the new hook, spin that new hook on there, and that old one falls right off. There we go. And when I do that now, I've got that little bit of hair on the back. If you find that your fish are missing it, you're missing bites, or they're barely hooked on that back hook, sometimes adding a little bit of feathers will help a lot. One last thing, if you're needing help with getting this bait to slowly sink, some of these baits you're going to get a slow rise, some of these baits are going to rise fast. Besides the big hooks, don't forget about these storm suspend strips. It's a great little trick. You could add a few to the belly, and that'll help you get that bait to where it just barely sinks nose down. All right, that's all key. All right, there's the modifications I make. Let's get up and look at how we're going to fish this bait. And just like big jerk baits, the key to finesse jerk baiting is cadence. And if you've watched my other videos, you know that when I say cadence, means the rhythm of the twitches in that bait, right? The rhythm of how you twitch it and the length of pauses, your cadence, right? And, you know, I can tell you this, before we even start fishing, generally the colder the water, the tougher the fishing, the slower your cadence, the slower your twitches, and the longer your pauses. The warmer the water, the better the fishing. You could pick up your cadence, you could pick up your twitches, and you could shorten up your pauses. But today, look at it, bluebird sky, 46, 47 degree water. We're going to be making little twitches followed by long pauses. And when we pause that bait, nose down, barely sinking. And when that finesse jerkbait's barely sinking away from the fish, imagine him sitting there looking at it. It stops, he's watching it, it's jerking, it stops. We're letting it sink, we're letting that long pause, it's barely sinking nose down. That fish thinks it's an easy meal. Small jerkbait, head down, slowly sinking, slow cadence. You got a fish. All right, let's make some casts, and I want to show you what I'm doing with my cadence. All right, I want to go over the basics of a cast with a finesse jerkbait. And I want to really talk to you about that cadence, small twitches followed by pauses. So, you know, with this little jerkbait, I'm always trying to make, hold on, I got to retie because if I don't, watch this. Did you see that? That's crazy. Man, that tells you right there, you know, with this light line to keep checking your line. But just caught a big pickerel there, and I noticed that I was about to make a cast, and I felt my line and noticed there was a big abrasion mark on it. So we're just gonna retie this real quick. So in case I get bit, we don't break it off. Okay, so here we go. Finesse jerkbaiting. First thing I want to do is I really want to make the longest cast I can. Okay, you know, in the zone where I believe the fish are, and I'm going to make a really long cast. When that finesse jerkbait hits the water, I have to use that lip to help that bait achieve its depth. This particular case, we got a little Husky jerk. It's going to dive about 2-3 feet. So I'm going to reel it in about 7-8 cranks. And then once I do that, now it's going to be little rod twitches followed by pauses. Little rod twitches followed by pauses. And I want you to notice, you know, a big jerkbait, a power fishing jerkbait, you know, you're hitting that thing. I'm not hitting it. These are little rod twitches. In fact, I'm almost hardly not moving my rod at all, right? It's just deek, 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 followed by long pauses. And the key with cadence is to keep changing your cadence until you figure it out, right? So, you know, what I mean by that is my first 5 casts with this finesse jerkbait, okay? Long cast, hits the water, reeled about 6-7 times. This first 4 or 5 casts, I'm going to do 3 little twitches followed by a 3-second pause. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Right? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to keep doing that, right? I'm going to do that for about 3 or 4 casts. If that doesn't work, the next 3 or 4 casts, I'm going to change it up to 2 little twitches with a 5-second pause. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 1, 2. You know, so you get the feeling of what I'm saying, right? Cadence is so important in the winter that it's my job to really pay attention and see what these fish want. And, you know, 9 times out of 10, once you find that rhythm, whether it's 2 twitches and a 5-second pause, 3 twitches and a 2-second pause, you know, you got to find the rhythm. So that's what I'm looking for. Again, as a general rule of thumb, when I'm finesse jerkbaiting, the colder the water, the smaller my twitches and the longer my pauses, right? So 46, 47 degree water. We're going to do a lot of little twitches with some long pauses here, guys. You know, a long pause to me is, you know, a 4 to 8 second pause. I've had days, honestly, I've had days where you had to leave it sit for 10 or 12 or 15 seconds. I've had other days, generally during a little warm front, where your pause might only be a second or two. But, you know, just keeping in mind, we've caught 3 pickerel. All 3 so far have come on a 2 or 3 twitch with about a 4 to 7 second pause. So we're going to keep doing that a little bit and see what happens. Tackle, rods and reels for the Finesse jerkbait. Let me remind you, 3, 2, 1 inch jerkbaits, not a power fishing technique. So we're not going to use casting gear. Guys, this is a spinning rod deal. And for me, it's a 7 to 7.5 foot medium or medium light rod. I actually like the medium light. My favorite is a 7.4 medium light. It's an Abu Garcia Ike rod. But we want a medium or medium light because remember, this is a light bait. This is a lure with treble hooks. So that lighter tip, this medium light tip I'm going to show you here, it's very spongy, right? It's got a lot of flex to it. It's a flimsy tip. So that's going to allow us to load that little Finesse jerkbait up, right? That's like a rubber band to help with our cast. But when we're fighting those fish are still fighting in cold water, and they're jumping and they're thrashing. We want that tip to absorb some of that shock when they get near the boat. It's going to help us land a lot more. So 7.5 foot medium or medium light. I really like the medium light. You know, a 20 or 30 size reel is perfect. This is a 30 Revo by Abu Garcia. And on a line choice, because these jerkbaits are so little, we're going to use light braid to a fluorocarbon leader. That's the ideal scenario. That light braid is really going to help us make long casts, and it's going to help us get positive hook sets. So I like 8 to 15 pound braid. My favorite's this 10 right here. This is Berkley X5 in white. And then a long leader, right? When I'm fishing that jerkbait, I want a longer leader, anywhere from 12 to 14 inches to about 3 feet of fluorocarbon. Size on fluorocarbon really depends on the cover, but most of the time 6 to 10 pound tests. If you can get away with 6, that bait has so much better action, that side to side action, that slow sink, a lot better on 6. But if you're in cover, 8 or 10 is a good line size. So spinning rod, finesse technique, that's the way to fish this little jerkbait. I hope you enjoyed this in the shop on the water talking about finesse jerkbaits. If you like what you're seeing, do me a favor, stop right now, hit that subscribe button, become a subscriber to my channel. If you're already subscribed, tell your fishing friends about Mike Iaconelli Fishing. And one last thing, if you want links to any of the stuff you saw in this video, baits, lure, rods, reels, line, click on the link below. We'll get you right to those products, help you become a better angler. I want to keep fishing, but it's cold, so bye.